Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another fun-filled episode of Opera with a Side of Fries. I am, as always, one of your hosts, Oren Gratis, and I'm joined by...
Frank Basile.
And I'm Carl Tanner. And we're very excited today. We have someone very familiar to all of us, but someone that is extremely world-renowned, not just in the opera world, but all music, all genres of crossover music. Please welcome the great tenor, Joseph Calleja.
Hey, guys.
So, after technical issues that our audience doesn't see, because this is being recorded through Skype, Joe, I want to just tell you that you sent me a little video right before today, and I want to come over there first and whip your ass for living so nicely, and then move in with you, if you'll have me.
Absolutely. No,
Okay.
it was because it's Opera with a Side of Fries, and today's my son's 14th birthday, and I was cooking him and his friends fries, so that was quite fun. So it's legit.
We're all incredibly jealous because we are hunkered down here in the United States, and you are in gorgeous Malta. Of course, that is your home country, and from everything, I just did a whole preview. I just looked at a bunch of images, and I'm coming to visit, and I may stay because it is so gorgeous. It's very so beautiful.
We're quite lucky. It's a very small island. It's 19 miles north to south. It's around 14 miles west to east, but it's 7,000 years of history. It's a fully fledged member of the European Union. We're lucky with history.
It's mostly densely populated too, isn't it there, Joe?
Yeah, second or third in the world, but it doesn't feel that way. We don't have high rises. It's just very built in some areas, but where I live, mainly has the north, just before you take the ferry to Gozo. It's quite magical. There's a sea, of course, and there's lots of valleys, and there's lots of, there's still relatively unspoiled areas, which unfortunately are becoming less and less, but so far so good.
And how far are you off the coast of Sicily?
Sicily, on a good day, I can see it from.
Really?
Wow. Yeah.
And Libya?
It's about 60 miles. What is it?
Wow.
I have my friend here, Keith. Is it 60 miles? 60 miles, around 60 miles.
To Sicily. Wow.
That's
and
really
from Joseph's house, I think you can see anywhere. I mean, from what you were telling me, Carl, the view and the views were incredible.
Yeah, I was going to say, Joe, if you want to play Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, if you don't, can you walk with your computer and show us your back?
This is a big gaming computer. If we go with my phone, yes, but no. I mean, listen, quite honestly, I was lucky. I bought this place many years ago when it was still affordable. If I would do it today, I would not be able to. So that's the most honest answer.
You ever view the beach?
Yeah. Do you have? Frank wants to know if you have a view of the beach. I'm sure you do. That's actually, I think, yes. So
Frank, he's on the beach with a what do they call those pools with the back of the pool looks like you're going to go off the mountain?
Oh yeah,
and it was very, yeah. Do you know that I?
Yeah, he's being too nice.
You are the favorite son of Malta.
Oh yes.
It was actually very funny. I was speaking with someone, one of your country folk, and I said, you're the second person from Malta I've ever spoken to. I said the other one's is a very famous singer, and the person said, oh, you mean Joseph Calleja? So obviously, can you walk down the street in Malta? Is the question without being mobbed?
I'll be very honest. Of course, many people recognize me, but I just behave normally. I mean, it's and you find that if you behave normally and you just be who you are, and people return the favor. I don't throw airs, or I mean, I just happen to be well known here, and that's it, and that's that. It's normal, business as usual.
Now, Joe, you're I was going to say, you don't use your name to get a reservation if the restaurant's booked in advance?
Oh yeah, of course, always. I'm just saying that's acting normally.
No, I think it's really wonderful. It's really wonderful when some singers, the singers who come from specific countries, and the countries are so behind them and really love what you do. I think you can tell us more about sort of the history of Malta, but I think the appreciation for the art form, for what you're doing there. Here I don't know how many famous opera singers can walk around the United States and ever get noticed, but there, I think obviously it says a lot about the culture that people really love what you do and respect what you do.
Yeah. Well, the truth is that here I transcended a bit out of the opera, the strictly opera. I mean, opera in Malta is actually very limited, although we have made huge jumps. But I'm one of the few people who sort of made a career abroad. Was on television abroad, on TV networks in Italy, in Germany, UK, in the States, and of course that doesn't happen often for Malta. But I mean, if you think of Pete Buttigieg, who was running for president, now he dropped out of the race, but both his parents are Maltese.
Wow.
And I know how many of you knew that, but he is.
Actually, I did not know that.
I did not.
Yeah. And Pete Buttigieg, and this is how you pronounce the name in Malta, Buttigieg, is 100%, genetically, blood-wise at least, Maltese. Both his parents, if I'm not mistaken, both his parents are Maltese. So, but he was born in the U.S. Of course, he must have been to run for president. So, and he speaks Maltese, which is a very difficult language. Quite not quite well. We speak it well.
Is Maltese is it a combination of certain? Do you see similarities with other languages? Because I don't know.
Maltese is, let's say, it's a cousin to Arabic, cousin to Hebrew. It has elements from Aramaic. It has lots of Lebanese inside, and it's mixed then 35-40% with Italian words. So as a people, we're a genetic mix of all the basin of the Mediterranean. So I did a DNA test, and I just discovered that my rescue dog has more breeding than me, because I'm, my great grandmothers from both sides were very naughty women, and my great grandfathers were very naughty men. I mean, because I have blood from Italy, Spain, Portugal, Greece, Sicilian. In fact, my mother very closely Sicilian, because my mother's maiden name is Bianco, and they hailed from Sicily in the mid 1800s. It all sounds impressive. It isn't. It's just people coming from all over, and we became a potpourri of cultures, and and I always say the best cure for racism, wherever you are, whichever country, is just make the people take a DNA test. When they see how absolutely mixed they are, in 98 or 99% of the cases, they cannot continue being racist.
Yeah.
I like that.
Malta has a lot of immigrants. You're a lot like New York, right? I mean, you get
completely.
Completely. A lot of different races and everything else. But you all seem to get along. I mean, you just hang out at the beach pretty much, or.
We're just too little to cause trouble. So I mean, imagine we have a civil war. But that's my second cousin. I can't really punch him. Oh wait, that's my first cousin. Oh, it's just no.
Well, I'm sure everybody there says that they're related to you. So
no, and we're very. I mean, we're 500,000 people. We are growing bigger, but like most Mediterranean folk, we're just naturally more suited to make love and eat ice cream rather than wage war. So there you go.
I am moving. That's all I needed to hear.
Yeah.
Hey Joe, just for the record, I tell everybody you're my little brother.
That's all right.
Okay.
I met Carl Tenor. I have to say this, and I'm not sucking up to anyone. I'm not being nice, because this is all public and everything. But I've heard Carl Tenor. Carl Tenor literally remembers me as a kid. I think I was 19 or 20. I was singing Rinuccio in the Spoleto Festival, and Carl was singing Il Tabarro, if I'm not mistaken, the role of Luigi. I haven't yet done it. And there, when you're 19 or 20, you think you have the biggest voice in the world, and you go. I was never cocky, but as you have.
All right, you're a tenor. You're a tenor.
When you're just a teenager, and I've heard this guy sing, that B flat when he goes, and I was just, Jesus Christ, I have so much to learn, and that was there's a true That's a true anecdote. And he was.
And I will tell you that when I heard you think, I said, "Oh shit, there goes my job."
He was so gracious, so nice, and you always know how a nice what a nice person someone is by how he treats people who are coming up and who don't have a name, and Carl was always one of the nicest people in let's call this opera world, the business.
He's so nice unless he's dealing with Zoom or Skype.
No.
Yeah, I don't like technology. I'm not very good at technology. So I have to ask you, Joe, was that your debut in America?
In America, yes, it was. Yes.
Well, tell me, how did you go from growing up in a small country to suddenly exploding all over the world? I mean, it's were the people coming to Malta to hear you? Did you decide I started taking lessons and I'm going to go to Europe and start singing for people? Tell me a little bit about that.
I always sang, and in my career, like any career, I've had my ups and downs, sometimes health issues. But the one thing which I never had was any problem with my throat. So my vocal cords were never touched. That's luck. It's not because I did something more special or better than anyone else. It was just lucky that I'm very sound there. But it's like my body was born to sing. I've sung when I was 4. I was in a church choir. Malta's very Catholic, so obviously there are more churches in Malta than the Vatican. That's not a joke. That's a fact.
Yeah, it's like 300 plus.
Yeah, 200. Yeah, more than 265. Yeah, more than a church for each day in Malta. And it's a very small. Malta, I think it's 300 square kilometers. I'm not sure, but it's a small place, really very small. And which is why it's exceptional, because we have 7,000 years of history in such a concentration of a small place. The oldest megalithic structures in the world, predating the pyramids of the First Dynasty by 1,000 years, predating Stonehenge by 800 years. So it's a very old. The only place that beats it, in my opinion, is Jerusalem.
And you have festivals all the time too there.
Yeah, we have as of late. Yeah, Jerusalem was the only place where it just felt older and somehow more mystic than Malta. But. And returning to your question, I always sang. I was in a rock band. I was in a church choir. I was in a school choir. And I'm not in that order, of course. Then at the age of 13, 14, my uncle had this old VHS cassette. And he said, "You got to stop singing the devil's music." This was Metallica, Iron Maiden, Pantera, Megadeth. This was what I was into. And of course, I love the Queen, Dean Martin, and lots of other things as well. Bing Crosby, but heavy metal was my thing. And he pushed in. Listen to this guy, and he pushed in the video cassette of the Great Caruso with Mario Lanza.
That's
and the first thing Mario Lanza does in that movie is clear his throat from too much flour in the throat. And with him, he vocalized. I just for fun I imitated him just there and then immediately, and this voice came out, and everybody was like, "Whoa, what was that?" and anyway, then I found a teacher, and long story short, here I am.
Was it hard to find a teacher, someone to teach you classical technique?
I was lucky. There was one, and I found him. Polasha. Wow. He trained with Skipa. He trained with Ricci and Paoletti. He was a friend of Di Stefano, Del Monaco, Corelli.
Wow.
Back in the day, he sang with Maria Caniglia, Nita Cerquetti, Maria Callas in Covent Garden. He's the Flavio and her Norma, the famous Norma of 1952. And he taught me what makes me special. I had to go to other people for certain things, like, my approach to the high notes was not good for a while, and you have to work on your voice all the time because your instrument is. But then how I burst on this scene, I had a small agency from Elite Artists in London, Robert Slothover, a gentleman that I salute here from here, and he was close to Decca Records for some reason, and I sang for them when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
In Milan. In Milan, and they told me, "Come back when you grow up," and I did. I had another audition when I was 21, 22. Again, still with the same agency, with a still small agency from Malta. So I wasn't being pushed by any big name. I wasn't being pushed by anyone at all. And although I did take part in Operalia, and that was a big boost of Plazo Domingo, and I did win a prize in Belvedere Hans Gabor competition in Vienna. Those helped. And then they signed me at the age of, I think, 22. And then, of course...
To sing opera?
Yeah. I signed with Decca. Yeah. So it was probably one of the youngest purely operatic vocal signings, definitely for a man. It doesn't mean that I had my doubts. I said, guys, I'm good now, but I'm very green. I could be much better in 10 years. In fact, my recordings, the first one is very sweet, but later on it progressed, of course, to a better placed voice and to a more mature. But you know how things are nowadays. It's literally mostly now or never.
Well, I have to say, the one thing that I've always noticed about your voice, that you're very much like Luciano Pavarotti, in that you sing with your voice, always with your voice, and your repertoire, you don't change it based on the repertoire. And as you've gotten older and singing more heavier repertoire, you still sing with the same beautiful line that you always sang with. And I think that you probably remain very healthy because of that.
That is a consideration, but as well, as I said, we all have our ups and downs, but the basic quality has to be your own. If you try to manipulate the voice into, let's say, the very fashionable dark, look like Carl sings. Carl is another one. He only sings with his instrument, and the approach, the interpretation is different, but the approach is the same. He wouldn't be able to keep that quality and that beauty and the inverse pyramid high notes if he would do otherwise. And that's another example for you. But yeah, let's say that is true. That I as much as possible I try to retain that.
Well, I've heard you over the years, and I've and I kidded you and said you're my little brother, but kind of, I take ownership of you and a couple
Sweet.
other younger singers that I worked with at the beginning of their careers. And I can see in some of those other singers that as you age, as the voice ages, it normally becomes darker. It can normally become darker because you're aging, and it's patinaing. It's taking on a beautiful color but it bothers me when I hear singers at the beginning of their career, and then I hear them 10 years down the line, and they're artificially altering their voice to sound older. And that's the kiss of a death of an artist. But you've never done that.
No, and so how do you decide, because you keep that sound that's so particular to you? How do you decide when it's time to take on a new role, or how do you decide when it's not time to take? That's probably a better question. How do you decide I don't want to do that yet? Because you sing everything so consistently. So as far as I'm concerned, if you keep singing like that, you can sing anything. But there are certain things that you want to wait on, or is it more of an emotional thing? Is it in terms of how long the role is? How do you decide?
The voice has changed, as exactly as Carl is saying. It's the voice is very similar to a fine wine. All right. If it's of great vintage, ergo you have a great voice, born with genetically, right? That's your raw material. If you then use the technique, the raw material in wine is the terroir and the grape, right? If you use technique and patience and slow maturity, right, in the winemaking process and in the voice making process, the tendency is, there can be some exceptions, but tendency is that great vintages can age for much longer and actually become finer and better wines. The voice is exactly the same. But if you get a Chateau Figeac 1982 and you put it in the microwave, I want to fasten the aging process by heating it, because and by aging it, or putting it in the sun, or putting it in somewhere which is above 21, 22 degrees Celsius. It will become soup. It'll become literally
vinegar.
It'll become vinegar, or what we say, Malta horse piss. And so and it's pretty much the same. My voice, of course, has matured. It has grown so much bigger. The voice is more interesting. It's more burnished. So you try a rollout and you sing it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times with a pianist. And if it doesn't hurt your throat, and you can still go back and sing the stuff you were singing before with consistency, then it means that role is ready for a tryout.
Do you feel like you balance your schedule in that the more taxing roles you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to do it maybe once this year, and then, but I want to balance it out with doing, let's say I go to do, I don't know, I'm not a tenor, but I would say something like in ballo, Renato is, not Renato,
Ricardo.
Ricardo is heavy, I would assume, I think, right? I don't know. But if you do something heavy, do you then say, you know what, I have to follow that up with something, or do Don Carlo or something, I need to follow that up with something a little bit lighter so I don't keep at grinding. Do you balance out your schedule that way?
When I can, I do.
Okay.
Sometimes you can't, because sometimes you just have to send your kids to college. And when you can, you do. And what I never did, I went on stage sick, but never when I was sick from my throat. I never took a cortisone injection. I took steroid pills for post-nasal drip. In fact, I right before COVID, which was the best time to do it, I had a nasal operation to clean my, I had a turbinectomy. And I was apparently, they removed 100 grams of excess tissue from each of the nostril because mucus was getting stuck and it was going down. And of course, there are these minor health issues, like in my case was always sinuses, stuff dropping down with performance. But when I was ill from my throat, when my vocal cords were even a bit red or even the very least compromised, I always resisted, and I always said absolutely not. And now I have this next season will be my 24th season. And I always in 24 seasons, I maybe stopped singing mid-performance twice. I think twice or three times max. That's not too bad in 24 years. And when I was feeling that I was hurt, I was gonna hurt myself, you stop. And I mean, opera is not, if football players in soccer can leave the pitch because they hurt their ankle or their knee or their quads, whatever, then an opera singer whose instrument is infinitely more sensitive and infinitely more fragile can leave because he tried his best but wasn't something happened that he had to cut it short.
Are you saying, Joe, you've had to leave in the middle of Act 2 or something, before the curtain went down, or?
No. It was always in a rape. No, I never. So far.
No, he wanted to make sure that he needed to know what act they gave him the paycheck, and then after that, once he got that, then he could cancel the rest.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Joe, I need to ask you, what was your debut and when was it at the Met? When and what was your debut at the Met?
That was the Duke in Rigoletto. I think it was 2006. Yeah, it was 2006, and was the Duke Rigoletto.
Okay. And now I ask you, and just two more debuts, La Scala and Covent Garden.
I actually, La Scala is the only theater I haven't sung in yet. I was booked once there, but then I had to cancel. The conductor involved got very mad, and it was a bit hard to get rebooked there. But it will happen. I will have. I think we're projecting some recital in the future seasons. Covent Garden. I had my debut in Covent Garden very, very, very young, and it was also as the Duke. I think that was when I was 20. I want to say, that was way before I was 23 or 24.
Now, Joe, I have an email, and we usually read emails at the end of the program, but we got an email in the other day that I'd like to read to the guys and read to you and ask questions of all of you. Because this came in from a gentleman named Andrew. I have to keep the lights low in my studio here because my head shines way too much.
Yeah.
So it's from Andrew Etherington. And he asks, hey guys, love the podcast. Keep up the good work. I'm curious about your warm-up procedures for those ever-beloved matinees. What do you do differently when curtain is at 12 versus 7 p.m.? And do you have any shows that jump out to you as voice wreckers when performed in the daylight? Andrew. So, Joe, what do you think about matinees?
Prayers usually work. Quite. My routine is wake up early, So I at least 4 hours before I want to warm up, eat lightly, drink something warm, and a long steam shower, and starting slowly with lip trills and trying to get all the mucus that have settled during the night, and then warm up the voice gently. That's the one thing I do differently. And I actually, believe it or not, I actually prefer matinees. 9 times out of 10, maybe for certain operas that are very high, maybe not, but usually I prefer them because I don't have the time to get worked up all day. My problem is the nerves. I don't show it, but I always get worked up. And when it's a matinee, you don't have time to get worked up. So
completely agree with that answer.
I do too.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
You just wake up early. You drink loads of water. You take a hot shower. Use the steam to move the gunk, and you do what you normally do at 7 p.m. in the evening.
And Frank, what do you think about doing matinees?
I couldn't agree with him more. I absolutely. And the only difference is about the warm up for bass versus the tenors. And Oren, you probably can attest to this. That often, if we just make sure the voice is free of the junk that settles over the night's rest, and the body is awake, most of our repertoire doesn't require those high notes that the tenor has to. So you can really almost use the first act to warm up the voice.
I was going to say, for some of the heavier roles, it's actually, I do prefer matinees. When I used to do Mozart, I would say Mozart was something that took a little more effort on a matinee. Definitely had to get my blood pumping to do a Figaro or a Leporello or something like that. But if it's a stand and sing, more serious role, matinees are great.
And guys, I have to fourth that because matinees are not really at 12 o'clock. They're usually around 2. So I get up early, a little bit earlier than I normally would. I have a little something to eat, not a big meal like you would do before an evening performance. But the comment about nerves, you're absolutely right. If anybody tells you that they're not nervous before a performance, they're either lying or they should get out of the business.
Or they're crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And I what I love is every time there's a matinee, what my first thought is? I get to go to a movie tonight.
Yeah.
Eat popcorn.
So there you go. So that's what I wanted.
I was going to add to that also, Carl, that one of the hardest parts is just being able to sleep the night before.
That's true.
We're usually on a schedule that your body just doesn't want to go to bed until sometimes 1 or 2 o'clock. So that's the hardest thing to break in the cycle for matinees, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, so I get that.
That's
I want to thank.
I'm not a fan of sleeping pills, but that's when they come up.
Yes.
Or a stiff drink.
I'm not gonna mention who it was. Was a colleague. Was actually an American colleague.
No! Hey, wait a minute, Joe. Before you say that, we have a policy on the show. You have to say all the names.
No, I can't.
I'm just kidding you. Go ahead.
No, she told me, how do you sleep at night? And she told me, haven't you heard of Xanax? I didn't. And,
That's right.
And then I might have taken, since I met her quite recently, but in the last 3 years, I must have taken it maybe twice. So that's not
she. So is it a soprano?
No. The Xanax.
You're narrowing it down, Carl. Well, I want to ask you a question. Now that we've been dealing with COVID, you've had I would assume, a fairly good amount of time, even somebody who is in demand as you are, but a fairly good amount of time at home. How has that been? You get to be a family man now.
Oh, no. I wash cars. I do odd jobs, polish shoes. I'm an expert pizza maker, sourdough maker. And I'm not even kidding. Maybe not the polishing shoes, but I mean pretty much everything else I said. I haven't been home for so long, since 1996 when I was 18. The year before my debut, I had my debut when I was 19 professionally. And I mean, it was great to be with the children. The dogs loved it. My bank account hated it. But as I said, I had this slight surgical intervention. So in a way, it couldn't have happened in a better time, because I was supposed to be singing Bocca Negra quite close to this operation, and there's a lot of bleed. It's nothing, but it's a lot of bleeding from the nose. And But now I think this whole issue it's getting a bit out of hand, and we're reading reports in the Telegraph and the Guardian and other respected newspapers, if there's such a thing left nowadays, as real independent media who are reporting actually what's really going on. I think that this is something that, as tragic as it was for some, and I pass on my condolences to whomever lost people due to COVID. As tragic, we need to learn how to live with it. Otherwise, we're going to have casualties from COVID, but the casualties which are going to happen because of the measures against COVID are going to be exponentially much higher. And this is not belittling the infection or the virus or whatever it is. It's facing reality, because in some economies we're talking about 75 to 80% of businesses shutting down. So
what happened in Malta? I'm curious. Well, first of all, what is the infection rate in Malta?
In Malta, in Malta, we were lucky because we're about 2,000 people who are infected so far that we know of.
Wow, that's very low.
Pretty well. We're a very small population. By population, we had one of the highest rates of infections, because remember, we're not many. But 9 people died. But whatever anyone says, every single one of those persons had massive health issues. Some of them were terminal even before catching COVID. And one has to understand, I've lost many friends due to the common cold. No, it wasn't a common cold that killed them, but it sort of finished them off. And I don't mean to sound insensitive here, but it's just the fact that when you're dying already, and you can die of a cold sore virus, when you are immunocompromised, doctors call it, and in Malta we didn't have that the experience of fingers crossed so far. We had no one healthy, seriously ill, till today, 25th of August, 1843 my time. We had no one healthy pass away, which was the case, unfortunately, in other countries, including the States. But then, what we must remember, that even in a virus like influenza, and I'm not comparing the two, I'm just using as an example. In Malta, we've had in 6 months now, 7 months almost, 9 COVID deaths, and about 2,000 people that we know of were infected. Probably it was more than that. Every year we have 50,000 people infected by influenza, and 150 deaths, between 130 and 150 deaths per year from influenza. So at least in Malta, maybe the virus has weakened, maybe it's something with the weather, but we didn't have the horror stories that came out from places like the UK, like Italy and Bergamo, and like the United States.
Did it affect the tourism industry at all?
Greatly. We're about 84% down at least.
Wow.
Now, we're talking about this, and I hope you guys may have heard, I posted something on Facebook the other day. One of our colleagues, and I hear he's doing better. He and his wife, Christian Benedict, the tenor, have COVID. And Christian, I don't know if his wife was, but Christian was in intensive care.
Oh my gosh. Is he okay now?
He is, from what I hear, he's doing better. But I was reading the comments. Unfortunately, he went online when they were moving him into intensive care, and he was able to, so maybe he did it or someone typed for him, but they put his full bank details online to say, we're having a little rough time here financially. We've been out of work, like us all. And can you help us? They were looking out, instead of starting a GoFundMe account, they put their bank details on Facebook. Well, all these positive comments came in over Facebook, but this one comment really irked me. And I'm not a saint, but I don't want to beat people down, especially when they're down. And I read this comment, and it says, "I'm a big fan. I love your voice, blah, blah, blah. But with a tenor of your stature, why haven't you been saving money? Couldn't you have put money away? You must have been making the greatest fees." It was a really shitty backhanded comment to one of the good singers and good guys in the business. So I responded, and I think I wrote a very nice paragraph or two. eloquent, but I said, listen, this is the problem in this business. We're not rock stars. We're not movie stars. We have about 3 or 4 people standing in line to collect money when we make a check. And that's before taxes. And then, now I, for instance, got to the top of my field and I was making great money before COVID, and there were 2 or 3 people standing there making their living off of me, rightfully so. And then after taxes, you can be one of the top people in opera and you're still going to bring home a little bit better than average salary. But it depends on how many performances you do a year and what your fee is. Yeah, well, this guy really raked Christian over the coals about saving money and where his money was and everything. So I chased this guy down and I wrote him, and he still wants to argue with me on Facebook. But if you go read the lineage of comments, they're everyone, and there are opera singers left and right commenting to this guy saying, "Listen, your facts are wrong." But it's interesting that you love to go to the performances and stand there and pose with the singers.
Well, the truth is that this time has really hurt. We need to perform. I mean, artistically, but also financially. This is a hardship for us, and this is we need to get back out there again.
Yes, and unless anybody walks in the individual's shoes, they have no right to sit in judgment.
Hell yes.
That's
exactly.
the bottom line. I mean, you can't sit there and dictate what somebody's financials may be or not be or should be.
You don't know what people's obligations are.
Absolutely.
Yes. Here's the thing, guys. Before Facebook and other forms of social media, we could only speculate about the number of idiots out there.
Now we know.
Now they're coming out of the woodwork.
Now, thanks to social media, we know where they live, their names, their addresses. Now it's and unfortunately,
Carl used to be a former bounty hunter, so watch out.
Exactly.
You know it.
And everybody's an expert these days. Everybody's an expert.
So yeah, I mean, I don't read comments anymore. I don't. I read. It's impossible. Before we used to say we don't read reviews. I do read reviews. I think that never reading. I'm not saying I would go and buy the paper at 3:00 in the morning when it comes out, but I will, occasionally Google and see what people.
Oren does that, and then call.
I've done that actually.
Let me tell you
that actually.
Can I tell you something?
Sorry.
I stopped reading reviews because I recently did an opera about 1.5 years ago. It was a world premiere piece, and the review was like I couldn't pay a guy to write a better review. But when you read a great review and they say the show carries you, or you're carrying the show on the shoulders, it just puts extra pressure on the rest of the performances. You wonder what the heck you did to make that review so what it is, and then it just kind of. It's bad for the mind, bad for the psyche. It's best not.
Yeah, I don't read reviews because I've never gotten a good review, so I stopped reading bad reviews.
You just want to do your job and make it. Every night's different.
But so I stop at official reviews. I mean, if you go to read every blog, every comment post, you'll be nuts. You should not put yourself reference COVID. Yeah. I'm noticing many people, many countries, opening up bars, opening up restaurants, which is fine. I'm all out for economic restarting the wheel, restarting the momentum of the wheel turning. But there isn't more risk. And this is, by the way, top epidemiologists and scientists in Berlin, nonetheless, in Germany, and the UK now as well. They're saying there isn't more risk if you're in a theater, even at full capacity, to watch an opera performance. And the logic is really very simple. In the bar, you're moving. Even if you're sitting down, you're moving. You're drinking alcohol. You're sharing snacks. You're all over. You're speaking loud because there isn't. There's the music and it's too loud. So you move closer to the person. Don't tell me every bar is policing, the social distancing. It's all, excuse me, but it's all hogwash. I mean, so in an opera, people go there, they have the masks, they don't move, they don't really move unless you want to be thrown out of the opera. You're not talking, you're not sharing drink, you're not sharing crisp. And, but what if the singers have it? Well, here's the thing. If a singer has COVID, okay, 99 times of 100, he's going to be the first to know even before the test. Why? Because we're tuned in with our instrument. Our instrument is here. It's not somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, and don't give me the asymptomatic. We're never asymptomatic. Even a little bit of tomato.
Neurotic is the word.
Even a bit of tomato juice. So what's this burn? Or why is the B flat or the A natural? Why? Come on, don't tell me you're gonna have COVID and you're gonna. Yeah, there is 1 out of 10,000, but there isn't gonna be an unhealthy singer on stage. Plus, it's very easy to periodically test singers. Like once a week, twice a week, swab. Oh, you're negative. Fine, no problem. You're positive. Stay home till you get better. And we replace you just like we replace a singer when they have the flu or common cold or broken leg. So it is really very simple for opera to continue. All there needs to be is some bloody common sense, which is not common at all. So basically in Malta, we had a massive event, a 3-day event, a pool party. 300 people in the pool, 400 people in the pool, they're drinking from the same bottle, they're doing all kinds of stuff later in the hotel rooms, everything. And that was classified as a mass event, just like my summer concert, which we're now doing in a different format without an audience.
And I wanted to thank you for inviting me to do that with you. But I'm not available.
But not because it was, the same mass event. It's completely different, the whole nature of it. But with social media, against stupid, you cannot fight. And the real pandemic, in my opinion, here is not just the COVID-19, but it's also the stupidity that stems out of social media and of uninformed opinions. Everybody is a scientist. Everybody's a pandemic expert. Everybody knows exactly what, and unfortunately, some governments actually give weight to mass hysteria. It's like being in the Arena di Verona when it was used, or in the Colosseum in Rome. When you have people, doing the thumbs up and the thumbs down.
The first back. I think the first back performance was in Madrid just recently with the 24 performances of what was it? Was it Rigoletto? What was
Traviata.
it? Traviata. And they were spacing all the audiences apart. All the singers stood apart. I think they had a big success. It can be done. The artists will take less money. I'm speaking for me, but I know the artists will take less money for each performance. We need to get back at it. We need to get out there, because not only is it costing us our livelihood, it's costing everybody involved, the audience. It's costing us our lives, and we just need to get back into it. I know Europe is opening back up.
Yeah, Joe, I was going to ask you, is there anything that you know definitively you're definitely going back to singing somewhere in Europe?
Yeah, I have this. I have some. I have Gioconda in Berlin and Tosca later on in Berlin as well. So far, we have reduced the number of performances. They're going to be, of course, social distanced on stage. So it's going to start. But I think that by December, there are at least 3 vaccines, including one which is already out and already being distributed in France, the Russian one.
Yes, I've invested in all those.
By December, I think we're going to have a vaccine. Either the one they're doing at the United Arab Emirates or the one in Oxford, that should be viable by mid-November and November, beginning of December. Because the
biggest issue that we're having here in the States is that more than 50% of the population is saying they won't take it. So
isn't that amazing?
That's the problem here, which I think is the anti-vaccine vaccinators.
So Joe, when are those performances coming up? Can you tell everybody?
Yeah, of course. September, end of September in Berlin, there'll be Gioconda, the Deutsche Oper, and Tosca. Then I think it's in December, so I don't have my calendar in front of me. And then from January, so far it seems that things gonna be back to normal, especially in Germany. And if it's not, especially in the States, opera has to rethink its future, because I don't know how many hits financially opera houses around the world, but especially in the US.
Now, are the kids going back to school at school, or are they doing it online?
Oh, my daughter is already in she's starting boarding school, so she's already in she's going to Trink Park, and she's already quarantining in the UK. She had to go 2 weeks later. The one time I'm here, she leaves. You know, the one time she's 16, she's gorgeous. Her name is Clara. My son today has his birthday. They're outside having fun. He's 14,
and you're stuck here talking to us.
Yeah, you should.
That's absolutely that's great. And actually, I have my friend pacing around the office. Keith.
Hey guys, I've lost your videos. I don't know where you went.
Oh, here we go. That must have been Keith. He must have.
And Oren, I lost you also.
I'm here, so
we're here.
There we go. There's Joe, and I don't know where Oren is. I have to ask you a question. Well, we have to move on. I want to ask you a question. We have a segment called Stories from the Road, and I kind of warned you about this real quick. We're going to wrap this up soon, and this segment we have, you tell a story of something funny that happened to you on the road.
Embarrassing,
and don't hold back.
No holds barred.
That's
don't
right.
hold back.
Okay. There were a couple, but once I was at the Met and I canceled the performance, and then it was the last one, and then I went to the airport the next day. And at the, you know, when you were unpacking your laptop and you know you're being checked for bazookas and for other assault weapons at the security, there was a man who told me, German man, he said, you know, I came all the way from Frankfurt to see you, and you canceled. You don't look sick to me. I was had a really terrible, like bacterial sinusitis, with globs of mucus the size of plates. But it left me speechless. I was like, well, I canceled for fun,
Yeah, exactly. I just don't take the night off. Oh my god.
But I know the other time I was in a concert. I forgot where I was, and I had my flyer open with the pointed part of my white shirt sticking out, and people were smiling a lot. And I said, "Hey, I'm singing great. They love it." And they were.
Yeah. I'm famous.
They were loving something else. I mean, it's those.
That's what they say about Maltese men. I don't know.
And my Met debut, Nancy Fabiola's wig, and this made it in the papers in New York. It was my Met debut, caught fire. Oh, no. She was singing. And I was literally, she says, what are you doing? ¿Qué pasa? You're on fire. That's
that happened to me too. I told the story on a previous podcast that happened to me in Bohème, and Dwayne Croft was hitting me in the head, and I was like, what the heck is he doing? Same thing. My wig caught on fire. So that's funny. That I'm glad I'm not the only person that happened to. Sorry, Nancy.
That's fantastic, Joe. I want to thank you for coming on today. It's fantastic to have you here.
Enjoy your son's birthday party. Thank you so much.
I'm waiting for my invite. Okay.
I promise. I will. Big hug.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Great hugs to you. Much love to you. Joe. Hey, real quickly, I just want to tell everyone, please email us and with your questions and comments. And if you want us to forward anything on to Joe, please send it to us. We're operawithfries@gmail.com. I want to thank you again for having you on today and for coming on today. And guys, any more questions real quick?
No. Let you go celebrate.
I just want to say, Joe, you are a great representative of Malta.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. See you guys.
Much love to you.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.